Warning, the following audio transmission is based on theory and is intended for entertainment purposes only. It's Doomsday and its affiliates will not be held liable for anything your dumbass does. Listener discretion is advised.
Right, and I'm trying to figure out where in the hell. I'm trying to remember where they went for their last meal. I want to say it was like a pancake house. Like, because they all went out for a last meal together. I'm trying to find it here where it's at. I can't seem to locate it.
Let me find out it was an IHOP.
I don't think it was an IHOP. It would be sitting there. I mean, I'd probably want to kill myself after going to Waffle House. But, so let's get into this. So this was their technique to enter the next level, guys. So I wanted to get into this as well. According to Heaven's Gate, one of the individuals had perfected himself through the process. There were 4 methods to enter or graduate to the next level. 1, physically pick up onto Talaf spacecraft and transfer to a next level body aboard that craft. In this version, what Professor Zeller calls a UFO version of the Rapture, an alien spacecraft would descend to Earth, collect Applewhite, Nettles, and their followers, and their human bodies would be transformed through biological and chemical processes to perfected beings. This and their UFO-related beliefs held by the group have led some observers to characterize the group as a UFO religion. And this doesn't sit well for me because you guys know I talk about alien Jesus a lot. So there you go. I think so, Eric. I don't know. We're going to see how this goes, man. So the second technique was natural death, accidental death, or death from random violence. Here, the graduating soul leaves the human container for a perfected next level body. All right. So pretty much if you die, you go. That's what it was. And I think that was one of the easy stipulations to say, hey, if you off yourself, you're going to go. But what's funny is they committed suicide, which wouldn't fall under natural death, accidental death, or death from random violence.
That's because he was just a megalomaniac and he wanted to just take out as many people as he could with him. That's all.
Right. Did you find out where they had their last meal?
Denny's.
Poor Denny's. You know they got some. Well, they. Could you imagine the publicity they got out of that?
I think it goes Denny's and then Waffle House and then IHOP. Waffle House has great greasy food and even better fights.
Okay, so there's 2 more things here to enter to the next level, Jake. So we need to pay attention to these to make sure we can get on that spaceship next time that comet comes around. Outside persecution that leads to death. Don't really understand how that is. After the death of the Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas, in the events involving Randy Weaver at Ruby Ridge, Applewhite was afraid that the American government would murder the members of Heaven's Gate. So is that why he said that? Maybe. And here's where it comes in. Here's where it comes in of the 4th final option. Willful exit from the body in a dignified manner. Near the end, Applewhite had a revelation that they might have to abandon their human bodies and, damn screensaver, achieve the next level as Jesus had done. Yep. So that's what it was. As long as you leave in a dignified manner. And they did. I mean, they were all laid out. You know, some of these guys even packed bags to take stuff with them.
They did pack their backpacks and run away.
God. All right. So Now, for whatever reason, guys, the Nike Decade became like extremely popular. This shoe like rose in value. Hey preppers, do you want 10% off survival food? Go to www.readywise.com and use code DOOM10 at checkout for 10% off all your survival food needs. Again, that's code DOOM10 at checkout at readywise.com, DOOM10 for 10% off at readywise.com. For whatever reason, people wanted this shoe at this point. I don't know if it was just like a connection with this or what it was. But yeah, so people wanted these shoes afterward. So we could get into the structure a little bit, Jake, but I know you were reading into some things and doing some things, so I know you got some stuff. What's up?
I just hate how the whole idea of religion gets so mucked up and, muddied over. That's just the totally wrong perception of Jesus and all of that. Which is already a bad thing, There's only one Jesus. Pretty provable. It's that's God coming down to create a manifested human version of himself to lead people in the proper direction, and decided to take on the burden of people's sins and these sort of things for that very reason. He didn't ascend, he just went back. What would Jesus ascend to if he was the embodiment of God? What?
I'm so confused now. So I mean, they talk about false prophets coming. If anything, Applewhite was a false prophet.
Oh, 100%, 110%.
And
absolutely.
I mean, here was the thing, if it was all about saving humankind for this human planet recycling, et cetera, don't you think he would have got more than like 0.000000001% of the world's population?
I don't know, man. And can you even recycle people? And if you can, are you still not permitted to do that in the states listed on the bottles? Maine, Hawaii, all those places. I don't know all of the states. Does it work that way? What does it mean to be recycled? I don't understand this, man.
I don't know. It sounds like an untapped business. Recycle your grandpa today. They are doing things with human ashes and recycling now, which is kind of scary if you think about it. Like, they can turn your body into things now.
Yeah, I just want to be put back in the ground,
I want to be burnt.
I don't even want a coffin. Like, just scatter me around and like I'm dead. I don't care. My body's all done for. I don't need it. Like, why keep it? Why put it in a coffin?
See, I don't know. I think it's a little bit on the barbaric side that we just keep the dead around and go visit the corpses and things like this. I find it to be a little bit barbaric. I on the other hand I want to be cremated. Like, that's what I want. I don't want to have to I don't want somebody driving over me with a lawnmower. I don't want my relatives to feel obligated to go visit a headstone. I don't want any of that.
I just want to, like, turn me into a tree. Like, you can do that. They can put you in a death pod and you can spawn a tree. Like, just do that for me or something. I don't care. I'm dead. I don't care.
So I'm going through and reading the chats. I'm not trying to sway anybody's beliefs. So if you want to, everybody, you do you. What makes you happy? I just, I have my beliefs for my reasons, and I feel like, personally, I feel if I get cremated, I'll be less of a burden on my remaining family members, right? Like, that's my whole reason for it. It's a waste of space. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of gas to come see me. And after 20, 30 years, no one's coming to see your ass anyway. You're just a stone in the ground taking up space, at least if I'm, I bet you could, Eric. At least if I'm cremated and I'm in this little urn, you could pass me on to some relatives, and then eventually, when someone gets sick of me, right, they could spread me somewhere where I want to be spread. I could leave some instructions, this, that, the other, and sayonara, man, farewell.
I have this long-standing thing that I've been debating doing for years, which is to make my like death video and send people on a treasure hunt. And it's going to be all over the place, and I'm going to be like, you know what, this is the last hurrah you get from me, and I'm going to run you all over the place, but you're going to get some really cool stuff out of it. But I also don't care what you do with my body, because I'm dead. I don't need it. But here you go. Like, don't cry because I'm dead. Like, go have some fun. Go have a party. Go celebrate that. Take a couple of my things, like I don't, you know, like my dad died. Everybody knows this, but like I have his guitar. Like I hold on to that. Like I don't need to hold on to his body. It's gone. It's over with. You know.
Right.
But I have, you know, some of his tools and his guitar and a few other things, but you can't take the memories away. You know, those are not going to go anywhere ever. The body's just done, you know?
Hey preppers, check out Blackbeard Fire Starters. Go to www.blackbeardfire.com/doomsday and utilize code doomsday for 10% off your entire order at blackbeardfire.com. No, I agree with you in that. My belief system growing up, you know, my dad would always talk about, like, you know, the bodies were just a vessel for the soul. And even though you see this body lying at a funeral, this, that, the other, it's not really the person. Right.
It's not.
And I understand that concept, and I can get on board with that too, you know. But even still, I mean, we'll have to do an episode one day where we really dive into death. Like we know what happens.
Clearly, we ascend to our higher beings behind the Hale-Bopp comet into an alien space.
Right. So let's talk about the structure of the group a little bit here. So these guys were basically, and I don't know how you want to put this, they were meant to hold this guy up on a pedestal, right? So these guys had to give up their possessions. They had to, you know, give up any indulgences they may have had, right? And they lived in a totally shared community. Okay. Even what they were allowed to carry, like in public, that each group was allowed to carry a $5 bill and a roll of quarters, right?
Sounds like he got his ideas from John Lennon, dude. I'm just gonna say the song "Imagine," you know.
Right.
Possessions.
Yeah.
Wow, that was creepy.
Thanks. Sounded just like him, didn't it?
Pretty. Yes. So for those of you guys that didn't know this, 8 of the members of the group, I got to turn off my screensaver. 8 of the members of the group, the male members, including Applewhite, voluntarily underwent castration as an extreme means of maintaining the aesthetic lifestyle. All right. The group initially attempted castration by having one of its members, a former nurse, perform the castration, but this attempt was unsuccessful and almost resulted in a patient's death and caused at least one member to leave Heaven's Gate. Right. So every castration that followed after that was done in a hospital. So think about being...
I'm just imagining the one 60-year-old nurse who retired.
Like, sure, I'll cut his balls off. Bring him over here.
To just scalpel some balls off as everyone's standing around watching. And then she's like, oh, I made a mistake. And then it's just a mess just sitting there.
I don't understand why they didn't do this with, like, the bulls on the farm. You ever see the little bands they put around the balls and they cut off circulation?
Why didn't they just put a rubber band around it for a couple weeks?
Yeah, I mean, that'd make your balls fall right off.
And it's pretty sanitary. It's pretty cheap to do. From what I understand, it's relatively pain-free after a bit. You don't even feel it. One day you're just walking around and blip, one of them just falls off.
Right. Just bloop into the toilet.
None of this bloody scalpel stuff.
So you know, could you just imagine being that one member then went up to Marshall after and said, "You know what, man? I was good with the aliens. I believe you could be the savior, but cutting my nuts off, dude. That's kind of the line here."
Just imagine being the first guy to volunteer for it. Does anybody want to cut their balls off today? Anybody? And they're all just kind of like, cut his balls off. And one guy's like, I'll do it.
And I think that's what it was. It was like a power trip for Applewhite. Like, he said to himself, I want to see how far I could push people. I want to see what I could get away with. And a lot of these people were happy to do it.
Of course, you got to test them. You got to see where the control is. You got to see who, you got to see how far you can push people, so you know what you can take from them. So you got to push the limits, and when the limits are pushed, you push them some more, and eventually you push them into having no ball.
So, right. And not only was, this guy, not only was Applewhite getting people to cut his balls off. I don't know who cut. No, I don't, Al, I don't think he did. I think it was somebody else. The member that almost died got their balls cut off first. But so not only was he taking these people's nuts, he was taking their paychecks. So we talked about this a little bit in the last episode.
Want to be a guest on the show? Email itsdoomsdaypodcast@gmail.com. That's itsdoomsdaypodcast@gmail.com.
In regards to this. So the group, they made their money by doing professional website development. All right. The name of the company was HireSource. And basically Applewhite employed these people to work, at his web firm. Not a web firm. What would you call that? Website company, I guess.
Media company.
He had a company called the HireSource. They built you a website to get you to space. This is utilizing the space internet, Jake, not the regular internet. We're talking interstellar internet.
Interstellar
internet. And so he was doing this, taking all their money. That's how they were able to afford the $7,000 a month mansion and everything else that they were doing. Not to mention he was having some of the members go out and earn incomes outside of this website building space. And you got to think about this. Back in the 90s, especially the early 90s, who knew about building websites?
Well, it was pretty new.
Not too many.
It was pretty new. It was just a fad then. So once the snowball took off, everybody wanted a piece of it.
Now, see, I would have did this different. I would have told everybody, look, I'm Applewhite. One day you guys are going to live in the internet, and I need to plug this Ethernet cable into your ass to make you live on the interwebs forever.
It's you joke about this, but I keep saying, and you're going to find out that one of the goals is to take your consciousness, so to speak, and upload it to the cloud. Just
right.
Watch.
No,
I'm right.
No, I know. No. I know. This is already being talked about.
Yeah. I've been talking about it for years. I know.
Yeah. So it's no surprise that this made huge headlines, man. This was heard about all over the world. This was not something that flew under the radar by any means. You got 39 deaths in Rancho Santa Fe. And you even had people doing like copycat suicides, not like in this mass, right? But people doing this stuff. This man had legit followers and like legit believers, right? There are people out there that are like waiting for the return of Applewhite. To think about that is pretty wild, right?
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I'm at a loss of words for how stupid it all is, to be honest. It's so stupid.
So the thing I think that's really interesting about this, so I think that whatever this chemical was that they ingested, what was the name of the chemical again?
Phenobarbital.
Yes. Okay. So I think that this made their bodies decompose very, very quick. All right. So basically they were given a 911 tip, about the mass suicide, right? The local sheriff's department got. So they go out there. One deputy responded to this, saw the initial 10 bodies inside the building, and automatically got that pungent odor. And you guys know that smell. The bodies were already decomposing. It was hot. It was California. So, of course, that's going to make decomposition happen a little bit quicker than normal. So I'm sure it was a really bad scene when they walked into that house, especially with 39 dead bodies in there. That's going to, you're going to smell. I guarantee those guys are still smelling that today.
That's the kind of smell that just never leaves the walls. It sticks forever.
Right. Oh God, that's not fun. Anyway, so all 39 of the bodies were ultimately cremated. And I'm just assuming because of, family and dealing with all those bodies and how bad they were in decomp, you weren't going to be able to have funerals for that many people being in that, state of decomposition. You could have had like honorary things, but you're not going to put a body out there on display. Right. So they were like, screw it. They're all getting cremated, which is a pretty wild thought to think about that. But I mean, I guess in that sense, it was the only option. Now, one of the cremating a body has a smell too. All right. There's a shooting range we used to go to in Florida right across the way. And you want to know, it's creepy as shit. So we would go to the shooting range. Right across the way was a crematorium. All right. And you could smell that smell of those bodies burning. It's a very distinctive smell. And not only was that creepy enough, but obviously ashes rise up out of there. So your car would be covered in some of these ashes. You'd be covered in some of these ashes. Pretty shitty to think about. Yep. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, all the bodies were ultimately cremated after they discovered them all. 911 call. They were all dressed up in their Nikes. They were all ready for the Hale-Bopp Comet to come around and come and pick them all up. Yep. So that's it. I mean, that's pretty much Heaven's Gate in the nutshell. Without actually getting into the actual individuals, the 39 victims that were involved in this, and some of the other kooky, quirky things that they had go on. This is basically it. If you guys want more on this, there are a ton of documentaries. There's a ton of podcasts. There's a ton of news articles. This made headlines, and a lot of people have covered this. And I didn't want to do this crazy stuck on this thing for multiple weeks of research and all this shit, but I did want to get this out there for you guys that didn't know what this actually was. And Jake, I don't want to discount anything you did today either. So what do you got anything else, or did we get into everything you had?
I was looking into there are two survivors out of all of this, one of whom I believe is like 48 now. Her name is Leslie Light, and she lives in California. And I was kind of looking around and pecking around on the old Google machine to see if there was a contact information for her or anything like that, considering, down the road we keep going with these things. It's like, hey, would you want to talk about your experience? Maybe, but also I'm like, probably not. And that would be a dumb question because that's such a touchy subject. But, having that perspective would be really interesting, because it sounds like to me was she chose not to do it because she kind of snapped out of it, so to speak. And to be able to have both perspectives of why you did it and then why you didn't do it, and how all of it felt and what the atmosphere was like, would be really, I think it'd be valuable. But I also, like I said, at the same time, I hesitate because I'm like, if somebody emailed me and says, hey, do you want to talk about your death cult on a random podcast? I'd be like, nah.
Well, so I don't think you'd approach it necessarily in that manner of, oh, let's talk about the death cult. I think you'd approach it more like, hey, we've been covering this on the show, and you want to come on and talk about it?
I thought it would, like, in my mind, the way I thought about it was like, man, it'd be really interesting to get a firsthand perspective on what Marshall Applewhite was like, because we all know that, as far as the internet, once the internet gets a hold of anything, it kind of gets painted in one way and one way only. But there's always two sides of the story too. I mean, yeah, dude's a lunatic, but also, like, I want to hear, like, insider perspective of, like, yeah, he was a lunatic, but some of the stuff made sense. And I'm sure that it did. You know, I'm looking through as we speak. I'm looking at. You can go to heavensgate.com and you can look at all of this stuff. And he talks about the basic questions because he knew that these would be the first most important questions, which is like, what's the bottom line of this? Like, why are you doing this? And then the other question is, why is it difficult to believe or accept us? And he answers those two questions right there. He was a cunning manipulator, and what from what I can see is that he literally just twisted the words of religion and used it for his own benefit to take a bunch of people out. That's my only determination of this cult.
Hey preppers, check out Blackbeard Fire Starters. Go to www.blackbeardfire.com/doomsday and utilize code doomsday for 10% off your entire order at blackbeardfire.com. So they also, guys, go to the website. Seriously, go to the website and check out what everything they had going on. But there's even an illustration of what the higher power people may look like. And it says how a member of the kingdom of heaven may appear. And it looks like one of the grays. Like literally this, like so much of this is just science fiction.
It's a story of a man who probably had a twisted perception of the world and stayed there and never came out.
And at some point decided to himself, this was the answer to get out of here.
I want to cut my balls off, and you should too.
No, I should not.
No, you should. If you want to ascend, Jester, you got to cut your balls off. Which
I'm
one's
staying
going first,
right.
righty or lefty?
I'm staying right here. But you know something that I find really interesting on their website?
What's that?
Why are there links on here for German translations?
I don't know. Maybe the Germans. I don't know, man. UFOs? Is that like? I don't know.
Don't you think that's really odd, though? I mean, because again, you got to think 90s. Like, I mean, you would be thinking they'd have Spanish translations on there.
I did notice that, and my first question when I was looking through the website was, why specifically just German?
Yes. That's something we're going to have to look more into. Oh. Well, I don't want to put together and just make a random assumption, but I will because we still got a little bit of time left here. What if Applewhite was a big follower of Adolf Hitler and was interested in what he had going on, all these weird spacey things that the Nazis were doing?
Well, that was my direction with it too, because what I know of World War II and all of that is that I know that at one point Adolf became obsessed with the Ark of the Covenant, and he literally went in search of the Ark of the Covenant, but he also was hunting UFOs at the same time. I don't know the ins and outs, but mainly he went to Antarctica, and I think at one point he believed that was where the Ark of the Covenant was located. Yeah, Blade. He was kind of playing Raiders of the Lost Ark, essentially. You're not wrong there, in all seriousness. Minus all the Hollywood action, that was the approach for a little while with Hitler and everything that he did, and it just the same mental parallels between the two is just that, as demented and evil as we all know it is, they legitimately thought that they were doing a good thing. And that's the scariest part of all of that.
I know. I mean, that is, when you think about it, that's really, really scary. So they still have an actual, they still actually have an address listed online. I don't know if anybody's actually there maintaining this address, but if anybody's out near Phoenix and you want to go check it out, it's there. I'm not going to give out the website or their exact street address on here. You guys can put your own work in for that, but it's very, very interesting when you think about how far they were going with this. and how they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and they weren't ready to give up on this. And I'm wondering if certain followers out there and certain people thought that this was going to be something that would be a continued tradition, that Applewhite would amongst more followers after death, and this would be an ongoing thing. Because the people that were running these things, or the people that are still running it, are clearly waiting for his return or something more to happen. I don't know. It's freaking wild, man.
I don't know, but all I'm going to say is I put that exact address into maps, and it looks like it's a Safeway now. Like a Safeway pharmacy, gas station, grocery store sort of deal. It looks like from what I can see, is that it's become a...
Hey preppers, do you want 10% off survival food? Go to www.readywise.com and use code DOOM10 at checkout for 10% off all your survival food needs. Again, that's code DOOM10 at checkout at readywise.com, DOOM10 for 10% off at readywise.com.
Kind of like a strip mall sort of deal. There's a Great Clips, there's a Safeway, there's a Dentist of Paradise Valley, an iPro, just basic stores around the same area. So it's been demolished and yada, yada, yada.
So what you're saying is the last final remaining members own a Safeway.
Well, there's also a Samurai Sam's Japanese restaurant. So
there's also a Great Clips. That's clearly where they were getting their haircut.
Grill. Even better, dude. Teriyaki grill. I'm going to go there.
Now, I'm assuming because this is a strip mall, they were probably renting a space in this place at one time.
I have no idea, but it's definitely a small little complex.
I mean, I'm looking at it on Google Maps right now, and it's just like, yeah, it's this little complex. Nothing big, nothing crazy. Looks like a little mini mall type thing.
Yeah, just several little stores, open parking lot, and then right on the corner. I'm not going to say the street names, but just it's like your typical place, your typical town. There's houses right across the street. Amazing.
So again, this wasn't where the mass suicide took place either. I'm assuming this is just where they ran their headquarters at.
It's the perfect place to run your ball cutting off compound.
Yeah.
Just enough for 40 people to do it. Excuse me, 38. 39.
Yeah, you're right. 39. Yeah, I'm one of the businesses there is G&J Alterations. Because they were altering some things, right?
First Class Coatings Incorporated. Liberty Tax.
I'm just iPhone repair.
There's a Sound Pro Entertainment. There's a martial arts place too. Wow. It's all a very busy little.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting when you think about, like, you know, now some things. Ozarks, thank you for the beer, man. Appreciate it. I'm just going back through and looking through some of these chats here. Welcome in everybody that came in here. Mr. T, Dita, Joe, Ozarks, Al, my wife. Yep, your wife, Jake, Rifle, WV Pappy. Everybody.
Dirt Lady gives us the view, but she never really listens. She said something about a video game, but she's not really listening. She'll jump in here and be like, I am too. I'm just taking care of the kids. But she's standing right here staring at me.
Well, let her take care of the kids, man.
She is. It's fine. I just want to reiterate that I always listen to her show when she's talking with Al and Cody every night. Every time they have a show, I listen to every episode. But I have to harass her and guilt trip her to listen to ours.
Don't worry about it. One day she'll listen for survival.
I'm just glad Stylus is here. She's awesome. 10 out of 10.
She's not listening.
See, I told you she'd say something.
She puts this show on and then she falls asleep. Let's be honest. See, look, there she says, nope.
I take back what I said.
All right, so I'll tell you what, we don't need to run this out the extra 10 minutes here unless you really got anything more to throw into this, because I'm about done. Marshall Applewhite is a douche. I feel bad for every party that was involved with this, because I mean, you got to think these victims of this, the 38 victims, they had families, they had friends, they had people that cared about them in their lives. And that was a thing too. We made some assumptions in the previous episode, like he found people that were outcasted, this, that, the other. Yeah, he did. But we should have clarified. These weren't all people that came from broken homes and didn't have people in their corner that cared about them. That's why Applewhite isolated them primarily.
I mean, you've got to isolate everybody. So it's all a brainwashing technique, man. Isolate them from outer stimulus, take away all the things, take away their responsibility, take away their duty, take away their identity, and you provide those things instead of government provision, whether it's monetary or whatever. But take all of those worldly things away and you provide them yourself, and then you become the only goal. You become the only thing that the focus is on because you have everything in your possession.
Right, exactly. I mean, I get it.
It's just a straight up manipulation tactic. And then on top of that, to smooth it over, you just use religion to back it up. And everybody's like, oh yeah, Jesus was awesome. Marshall Applewhite was probably awesome too.
No, it is so far from the truth. But guys, like, I encourage you, if you do want more about this before we're out of here, I encourage you guys to go and watch the documentaries, go back, read the Survivor, or listen to the Survivor stories, and go back, listen to the full initiation tape. There is so much that has been covered on this. It's unreal. And the reason why it's very important that you guys go back and check some of these things out is so you can identify if you're becoming part of a cult, and so you don't end up going down that road.
Don't join a cult. Don't cut your balls off.
Right. And if somebody says, hey, there's a comet on the way, we're going to hitch a ride on it, you say, fudge that. We're not doing it.
I'm going to just chill right here and hang out. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you can do. Anyway, Jake, any final words before we're out of here?
Don't join a cult and don't cut your balls off. I've said 100%. It like 6 times already. I'm sorry. I feel like I have to keep saying it because it's just it's so easily avoidable to not cut your balls off, guys.
Wait, cut off what?
Your balls.
Oh.
It's so easy to not do. It's very hard to go through that.
It is.
There's a lot of steps there to cutting balls off time. Don't do it.
Yeah, just avoid that shit at all costs. Don't cut your balls off.
Just don't do it.
Anyway, guys, we love you. We thank everybody for coming in tonight. Don't join another cult. Join our cult. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Instead of joining a cult, join Citizen Social, okay?
There you go, Citizen Social, the new online cult.
No, but really, though, it's pretty cool. MyCitizenSocial.com is free to join. We don't ban people. It's a small, tight-knit community. And I'm tired of getting shadow banned, and I'm tired of seeing my friends get shadow banned and get their accounts removed. We don't do that over there. So let's make it a good thing. Like, please come and join. Come hang out.
Right. Yeah, so we're going to keep pushing. I'm going to make a little ad for that since I'm thinking about it. We will make a little ad for Citizen Social so it could be running over every episode.
You do get to keep your balls, Mr. T.
Just one. We get one, you get one.
Pick your favorite one and give me the other.
All right, that's it. We're out of here. Love you, Jake. I'll talk to you later.
Bye, guys.
This is an emergency action message. At approximately 1 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, NORAD is tracking 15 ICBM nuclear missiles inbound to the following cities: Orlando, Miami, Pittsburgh, Dover, Newark, Richland, Philadelphia, New York City, Baltimore, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Boston, Seattle, Detroit. This is an extremely deadly situation. Stay tuned. The next emergency message will be a presidential address.